Drink the sphere. Oh, the bug where I have divine purpose and it still consumes all the holy power. What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with a video on the War Within beta. So we are just a couple days away from the worldwide early access release of the War Within, which I am super excited for. However, there are a number of very legitimate concerns that I have with the state of the game as far as it goes for launching a clean, bug-free patch. It's definitely a little rough right now for Ret specifically in terms of the number of bugs and interactions that aren't working with our talents. So I decided to make this video in hopes that we can get a little bit more attention on these issues and get them fixed within the first week or so of the War Within. I don't really have too much expectations of getting these fixed before launch, but you know, we'll see what can happen. The Aurora bug that I did report earlier a couple weeks ago, it did actually get fixed, which is really nice. So let's start off with Templar. So Templar has a couple, 3 to be specific, major bugs, 2 of which are a little bit more major than the third. And the first one I'll talk about is the Hammer of Light and Divine Purpose interaction. Now in the intro of the video, I showed an example of that, but I'm going to play some clips that show 2 of the other bugs with Hammer of Light. So the first being the Divine Purpose bug. It can sometimes consume 5 holy power and Divine Purpose. To my understanding, this happens when the Divine Purpose is generated by the actual Hammer of Light spell itself and not when you already previously have a Divine Purpose proc available from either a Word of Glory or a Final Verdict that was previously used, then Hammer of Light typically doesn't still consume the 5 holy power. But if it just happens to be generating a proc of Divine Purpose, that's when you'll briefly see the notification of Divine Purpose and then it will fade away. The next bug with Hammer of Light happens when interacting with a dodge, a parry, or a Vanish mechanic from a rogue or other stealth class. So as some of you who PvP might know, you can Shadow Meld or Vanish spells in WoW. However, when that happens to Empyrean Hammer, or I'm sorry, Hammer of Light, when that happens to the secondary effect, Hammer of Light, it actually will not trigger a Shake the Heavens. I'm not sure if that's intentional, but I don't think it is. Because that's like a double negative on if you lose out on your Hammer of Light, because then you are missing out on your Shake the Heavens buff, then you're missing out on more of your Light's Deliverance procs to get a free Hammer of Light. It just feels like it shouldn't be in place. You shouldn't be double penalized for missing out on a Shake the Heavens. But I'll show an example of that as well right now. All right, let's take a look at the 2 bugs. All right, so as annoying as the Divine Purpose and the Rogue Vanish bugs are, the next one is actually the biggest head scratcher of all. So the capstone talent here we have on Templar is called Light's Deliverance. Every time you use an Empyrean Hammer or an Empyrean Hammer goes off, you gain a stack of Light's Deliverance. This can be from Shake the Heavens, this can be from Hammerfall here, and it can also be from Zealous Vindication from your Hammer of Light. This buff is what gives us our free proc of Hammer of Light, and is kind of why you can get some decent chunky bursts as Templar compared to some of the other red talent specs. So the bug that comes into play here is with Empyrean, either with Hammerfall or Empyrean hammers themselves. So the way that I read Empyrean hammers are that they strike a nearby enemy for a certain amount of damage depending on your gear and your setup and your talents, and they go off during Shake the Heavens. And with Hammerfall, they should be going off with every Templar Verdict or Divine Storm. Now, if I go up to this target dummy here, excuse me, and I'm relatively close by, we cast a Final Verdict, and we're going to take a look here. We gain 1 stack of Light's Deliverance. That's because an Empyrean Hammer went off on the dummy here. Let me go ahead and show you. Let me fully reset this. So, cast that Final Verdict. Boom, another stack. Now we're 2 stacks of Light's Deliverance, and our Empyrean Hammer went off, did 59k damage. So one other thing to note before I get into the bug here is that Empyrean Hammer, it doesn't always go on your primary target. So if I'm chilling here, hitting this training dummy, and hopefully we get a good example. Yep, right here. So this other Empyrean Hammer, that last Empyrean Hammer, went on a nearby enemy. So the bug comes into play when we're using a Final Verdict and we are not directly on top of the target. If I am, and let's start this relatively close. If I'm right here, an Empyrean Hammer went off. It hit this target right here. If I back up a little more, and you can also tell the Empyrean Hammers are going off by the Light's Deliverance stacks. I cast it right here. It doesn't go off. Let me cast it again and show you guys. See the 5 stacks of Light's Deliverance? This is too far for the quote-unquote nearby enemy to be struck by an Empyrean Hammer. This kind of defeats the purpose of playing a ranged melee spec like a Red Paladin if your primary hero talent, damaging ability, which is the Empyrean Hammers, don't work when you're any sort of distance away from the target here. So right here, look, we're not gaining any stacks of Light's Deliverance. And this is super obvious in PvP because as a Red Paladin, you don't have a real gap closer. You're not always on top of the target, and you're taking advantage of your melee attacks, your range attacks over your melee attacks. And it really sucks because something that I was unaware of previous to this bug coming up was I thought what we could do would be proccing the Shake the Heavens, and then, you're sitting at range, you're spamming your Blade of Justice, you are spamming your Hammer Wraths, and you're extending the duration of Shake the Heavens. What I was unaware of is that the Shake the Heavens isn't doing anything. It's not calling down any Empyrean Hammers unless you are directly on top of your target. Empyrean Hammers are a strictly melee ability. It does not work with your range spells. And nowhere in the tooltip does it specify that these are melee only abilities. And that really sucks. That really diminishes the builds that I was going for extending Shake the Heavens. And of course, maybe you're fighting a DK or a Warlock or Hunter, and the Empyrean Hammers are going on the enemy pets, and they're slowly giving you Light's Deliverance stacks. However, you're already fighting with the fact that your Empyrean Hammer damage is absorbed by targets that you don't always want it to be absorbed by. If you're fighting a high amount of pet spec, like a Windwalker Monk or a Hunter or DK or Warlock, or a lot of specs in this game nowadays, your Empyrean Hammers are often useless. So now, not only are they useless in terms of actually hitting the targets that you want them to, aka players, they're also just not even going off from a Shake the Heavens or your Final Verdicts if you are just barely outside of this roughly, 8 to 10 yard range right here. It's not quite melee range, but it's not quite caster range either. It's definitely not caster range. I'm not sure what range this is. Like, what do you guys think? 7, 8 yards, something like that. It's tough to tell. But this is a bug that I really want addressed, because as soon as this is addressed, then it doesn't hurt as much that your Empyrean Hammers are going on random targets because you're generating a lot more than previous. Now, as it stands, Empyrean Hammer is a melee attack, which I was kind of unaware of until this week, and this is the week that the class launches, the hero specs launch. So I'm really hoping that we can get this addressed, and if this is not addressed, I'm hoping that we can get a specified tooltip change. Otherwise, you know, it sucks. Templar really is really hurting because of this change. Or bug. Well, let's call it a bug. Let's call it a bug. It's definitely a bug because, let's say, you're calling down an Empyrean Hammer on a nearby target. Well, there's your target. Maybe it goes in this guy. Maybe it goes in this guy. Because that's nearby to the target. Nowhere does it specify that it needs to be, like, right here. You know? It sucks. All right, on to the next bug. Let's talk about some Herald. All right, so the next bug we're going to talk about is Burn to Ash, and it's most obvious when you're playing Herald. So the talent is supposed to increase your damage over time effects on the target by 30%, in addition to whenever the Burn to Ash Truce Wake dot crits, it extends its duration. So where it's bugged is the second portion. It does not actually increase your damage over time effects on the target. And it's most obvious when playing Herald of the Sun, when using your Dawn Lights. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first show you guys how much damage a Dawn Light does on the target with Truce Wake. So I'm going to get in here. We're going to Wake of Ashes. Final verdict. So Truce Wake is on the target, and our Dawn Lights are ticking for an average of about 54k. Yeah. So let's compare here. So Dawn Light with a Truce Wake on the target. Dawn Light did 54k top end, 49k average. And that's just because the last tick of Dawn Light is like a half tick, for example. It didn't actually go off for 49k. Let's verify it in the combat log here. So Dawn Lights are ticking for... let's see here, Dawn Light damage training dummy for 54k. Dawn Lights are doing 54k, and this is all within the Truce Wake radiant damage over time portions. These other mini hits from Dawn Lights are just the cleave portion of Dawn Light. Does like 8% of its damage to surrounding targets. There's another 54. You can see that it's still ticking within the Truce Wake time frame there. I'm going to put the combat log back down there for now. And now we are going to untalent out of Burn to Ash. I don't know, we'll put in Blessed Champion for now. And then I'm going to get in there and Wake of Ash. And by the way, I am not running any proc abilities. I don't have a weapon enchant. I don't have my proc trinket. Let's get back in there. So we're looking for Dawn Light to be doing like 54k. So Wake of Ashes and boom. How much are Dawn Lights ticking for? 54k. Let's do another. Dawn Light on the target, 54k ticks. So Truce Wake is not, in fact, doing any sort of... I'm sorry, not Truce Wake. Burn to Ash is not actually increasing our damage at all on our Dawn Lights. And you would think with this talent, your damage over time effects would be... Like, you would think on paper, wow, Burn to Ash sounds great. 30% increased damage on Dawn Lights. Hands down, would take that every time. But it, in fact, does not work like that. And Penitence is the same way. Just trust me on this one, it's the same way. The only damage over time modifier that I went in and tested that seemed to actually work is Burning Crusade. Burning Crusade actually did give Dawn Lights on average about a 5% increase. It was like 2,500 damage or so when I had Burning Crusade talented. But let me just show you guys what it looks like when I'm talented into Penitence. And who knows? I did this testing 2 days ago. Let's see if Penitence does increase our damage from that 54k that I previously mentioned. So let's go into overall here. Dawn Lights, 54k. We're looking for 10% more. We're looking for 54,000. Looking for about 5,400 more damage for our Dawn Lights when talented into Expurgation. Let's see what, I hope to be wrong. Let's hit a Dawn Light here. 54,000. 54,000. 54,000. One more. 54,000. 54,000. So, Penitence and Burn to Ash, they do not function. They do not work. Burning Crusade, for some reason, actually does. Let me just show you guys this now. So, actually, let me start just Wake of Ashing the other direction here. So, Wake of Ashes, and apply the Dawnlight. Now it's ticking for 57k. 57k, 57k, 57k. So, of our damage over time modifying spells here, only one of them actually works, and that's Burning Crusade. But the unfortunate thing is that in order to pick up Burning Crusade, you have to take Penitence, which does not work. Burn to Ash, a new capstone talent for Wake of Ashes, does not work. So let's hope that these bugs get fixed as soon as possible, because the game is about to launch here. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is the damage over time modifiers for Templar Strikes. Now you're just going to have to trust me on this one, because I sat at a target dummy, and I'm not going to show you guys like 25 minutes of me trying to increase my Crusader Strike, my Templar Strike damage over time with all the talents here. But you're just going to have to trust me in saying that none of these actually work for Templar Slash either. The only way to increase the Templar Strike's dot here is to hit a harder Templar Slash. So that's with your wings pop, trinkets pop, etc., etc. It always does 50% of a Templar Slash, unmodified, and the dot is unmodified by anything else. So going off of that, we're going to talk about another Herald of Sun Bug. And that is actually the Templar Slash dots interaction with Blessing of An'Shi. So the way that Blessing of An'Shi works is your damage and healing over time effects have a chance to increase the damage of your next Hammer of Wrath by 200% and make it usable on any target regardless of health. So that's your dots. That is your Expurgation. That's your Truce Wake from Wake of Ashes. That's your Dawnlights. And it should be your Templar Strike's damage over time effect as well. And by the way, Eternal Flame can proc Blessing of An'Shi. I don't know if I can get lucky enough to show it on the video, but there actually I do. Perfect, right there. So I used an Eternal Flame, and the dot went off, and I got a Blessing of An'Shi proc. And for some reason, the Blessing of An'Shi proc went away on the weak aura. So it's probably a weak aura bug, but it's right here still. I still have it. There we go. It just goes away if I drop combat. So where that bug comes into play is the Templar Slash damage over time effect. And I did recently test this. I did 25 Templar Slashes. So that's pushing this ability twice. So 50 pushes, basically. And I never got the damage over time effect to proc a Blessing of An'Shi. However, you know, you can get all your other dot effects to proc a Blessing of An'Shi fairly quickly here. But I did just have a proc, so it's probably not going to show. Let's see. Do we get lucky? There we go. So we got fairly lucky. We had the dots, and boom, another Blessing of An'Shi proc right there. So Herald of the Sun up until recently, had a bug with Aurora where Radiant Glory would not stack a Crusade with your Divine Purpose proc from Aurora, but I do believe it's fixed, and I want to double check it right now for you guys, just so I can verify this myself. It was fixed as of yesterday. So we're going to go in here, and we are going to pop our Wake of Ashes, which is going to proc our Crusade from Radiant Glory, and then we're going to double Final Verdict. The first one empowered by Divine Purpose, the second one just regular Holy Power, and we should be at 7 stacks. So Wake of Ashes, Final Verdict, boom, 7 stacks, bug is fixed. Kudos to you, Blizzard. Thank you for fixing this. Radiant Glory is now actually viable for Herald of the Sun. Very happy about that, at least when playing Crusade. So guys, that is about it for the bugs here, at least for Herald of the Sun. I do really hope that some of these are addressed. They're not all Herald of the Sun specific. A lot of them just have to do with probably the coding on what is considered a damage over time effect for Dawnlight and Templar Strikes damage over time effect, but I really hope that these can be fixed. So now let's talk about the class bugs themselves. All right, for our last bug, we have Greater Judgment in the Paladin class tree mixed with Highlord's Wrath and Divine Resonance. So this interaction, as of a couple builds ago, was unfortunately still happening. And I'm going to show you guys what it is. So with Greater Judgment, this recently became a baseline talented spell for Retribution Paladins. What it does is it applies a buff to the target, or I'm sorry, debuff to the target that increases your next final verdict. If you take Highlord's Wrath and you double Judgment, it should now give you 4 stacks instead of 2 stacks on the target. And if you use a Divine Toll, it's going to give you 6. If a Divine Resonance goes off, it's going to give you 8, and so on and so forth. Where the bug comes into play is the timer on the judgments. And let me show you guys exactly what I mean right here. So I'm going to go up to this training dummy. I'm going to push Judgment into a Divine Toll. Now I'm at 4 stacks. My Divine Resonance is about to go off and give me 6 stacks right here. 6 stacks. My Judgment's about to go off. I have 8 stacks. And now Divine Resonance is going off again. I have 10 stacks. And as this ticks down, you guys are going to notice that my stacks are going to go away. There we go. 8 stacks. Divine Resonance goes off again. 8 stacks again. I'm going to Judgment. 10 stacks. Now, as this debuff is falling, every couple seconds, I'm losing stacks, but I'm not pushing my final verdict or Divine Toll. Nothing I'm doing should be diminishing the value on any of these stacks. And they decay at what seems to be like random intervals. But it's actually not random intervals. The way that it's working right now is each individual double stack of Greater Judgment on the target is decaying starting at the moment that the Judgment hits the target. So what I'm trying to show you guys is you have an invisible number of Judgments on the target when you go above 2 stacks. And this second stack would look like it's right next to the Judgment if I threw another one right here. So as this Judgment is reaching about halfway point, it's going to expire right about now. I really hope that this is a bug and not intended. Or if it is intended, we get a better way that this is reflected in both the tooltips and on the targets themselves. It feels very weird, wrong, or confusing when you're about to swing a final verdict and the Judgment that you have on the target that looks like it has 6 or 8 seconds or something like that left just randomly expires out of nowhere. So I really hope that this is able to be fixed before the release of the expansion. All right, guys, that is about it for me today. I'm sure there are probably a couple bugs that I might have missed. However, these are the major ones that I think are the most impactful and the most hurtful towards Ret's healing. Not healing, but you know, their hero talents, their throughput. Yeah, I know. They just suck. They just suck. And I know I've been rambling a long time, so I hope you guys understand why I'm messing up my words now. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and leave me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you think, and hopefully we can get some attention on this video. Please share this on the forums, share this with your friends, tweet it, whatever, just so we can get some dev attention to fix some of the bugs before launch. All right, peace.